On September 3rd, Emma Dawson kissed her brother goodbye at Newark Airport, rolled her suitcase past the departures board, and stepped onto a flight bound for Cairo. She had never traveled alone internationally before, yet her voice on the phone that morning brimmed with confidence. "I'll see you in 6 weeks," she'd said, excitement twirling around her words like the perfume she wore. What happened next would change everything her family believed about safety, trust, and the fragile thread between life and death. 46 days later, a news alert flashed across every major American newspaper. Missing American tourist found dead in Egypt. The headline splashed her name in bold, and shockwaves rippled through her hometown of Dover, New Hampshire. Watch to the end. This story takes a turn nobody saw coming. How would you feel if someone you loved left home smiling and was later defined by a tragedy you never saw coming? Emma was 28, a graphic designer with an adventurous streak, and she'd booked her trip months earlier after receiving an ornate wedding invitation from a colleague she met at a design conference 2 years before. The invitation, embossed with gold leaf, arrived from Michael Carter, an American expatriate who had settled in Alexandria after marrying an Egyptian woman named Layla. Emma's family had initial reservations, but her earnest enthusiasm was irresistible. "This will be the trip of a lifetime," she told her brother, her hazel eyes sparkling beneath the airport lights. 3 days into her travels, she emailed photos of the pyramids of Giza at sunset, the orange sky casting shadows across her beaming face. Then her messages slowed, then stopped altogether. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss our upcoming videos. What would you do in her family's shoes if the texts stopped without any warning? On the morning of her 35th day abroad, Emma's parents received an abrupt call from the U.S. State Department. The voice on the other end was solemn. "We have concerns regarding Emma's well-being," the agent said. "She has missed scheduled check-in appointments, and local authorities are investigating her disappearance." Her mother, Rachel, felt her coffee cup slip from numb fingers, shattering against the tile. The State Department revealed that Emma's last known location pinged near the old Khan el-Halili market in Cairo late at night. Egyptian officials said witnesses spotted her walking alone after midnight, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Her family's disbelief rippled through their home like bitter wind. How could a carefree adventurer vanish in a city brimming with tourists and locals alike? Could you imagine the terror her parents felt hearing those words, already dreading the worst but desperate for hope? International search protocols kicked into motion. Egyptian police combed the winding alleyways of Cairo, while U.S. agents coordinated with Interpol. Meanwhile, Michael Carter's name surfaced repeatedly in Emma's digital footprint. They had exchanged messages up until 2 weeks before her disappearance. Investigators scrutinized every detail: the tone of Emma's last texts, the metadata on her shared photos, her credit card activity, and her flight itineraries. Then something unexpected appeared, a video clip uploaded from Emma's phone to an online cloud account, time-stamped just hours before she disappeared. In it, she spoke softly, her voice edged with unease. "I'm meeting someone who says they can help me with something important," she whispered, her eyes darting off camera. Sarah Mitchell, the FBI liaison on the case, later described hearing the file for the first time as a gut punch that shifted the investigation into a new phase. Emma's family flew to Egypt, determined to be near the search. Upon arrival, the heat of Cairo pressed against their skin like a silent demand for answers. They walked the market streets where Emma was last seen, breathing in the scent of spices and exhaust, clinging to the hope someone would recognize her. Michael met them in Alexandria, pale and anxious, offering condolences while insisting he hadn't heard from Emma in days. He was excited about the wedding, he told Rachel, eyes flickering with fatigue. She said she wanted to explore Cairo more before traveling north. Yet when pressed about his last contact with her, his answers shifted like shadows at dusk, sometimes days before her disappearance, sometimes hours. Her brother David watched him closely, confusion and frustration warping his features. What would you conclude if someone important to your missing loved one's story offered answers that kept changing? Then came the breakthrough. Egyptian forensic teams located Emma's phone near an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. Forensic analysts described the location as eerily silent, a stark contrast to the bustling streets nearby. The device's battery had long since died, but investigators extracted fragments of deleted text messages, revealing Emma was communicating with someone she referred to only as R. The messages hinted at a meeting arranged to help her access a rare cultural site closed to most tourists. Yet as authorities dug deeper, R could not be immediately identified, and the tone of the last messages shifted from curiosity to caution. Emma wrote, "I'm not sure this is what I expected. Something feels off." That line sent chills through the investigative team and Emma's family. Could you imagine her fear writing those words, alone in a foreign land with only her instinct to guide her? Just when the trail seemed cold, a local tip came in from a Cairo resident who'd seen Emma arguing with a man near the warehouse 2 days before her disappearance. The witness described the man as tall, with brown hair and a hesitant gait, someone locals had seen around the market but dismissed as another traveler. Egyptian police circulated the description, and within 48 hours they had a match. A man named Tom Harper, an English teacher living in Giza, who had crossed paths with Emma several times in tourist hotspots. Detectives brought him in for questioning. He appeared calm, nearly too calm, answering questions with steady precision, until a detail from the interrogator's notebook made his face tighten. Emma had mentioned urgent and important in her last text. Tom's reaction was subtle but telling, a flicker of something unreadable before he regained composure. What do you think was behind that quick shift in his expression? Under intense scrutiny, Tom admitted he met Emma that night near the warehouse, but claimed their conversation was harmless. According to his account, Emma wanted an introduction to a friend who could show her an off-the-beaten-path historical site. She seemed curious, adventurous, like most travelers, he told detectives. We talked, then parted ways. His story, however consistent, didn't align with the timeline the investigators pieced together from CCTV footage near the market and phone pings that placed Emma alone after midnight. When pressed about the video fragment where Emma sounded uneasy, Tom's gaze dropped, and for the first time, words stumbled. "I didn't realize she was uncomfortable," he said. "I thought she was excited." The lead investigator, Captain Kareem, later admitted to Emma's family that a nagging doubt had settled in his mind. Something didn't add up. Could a seemingly innocuous encounter actually be the key to unraveling a devastating truth? Then came the emotional twist that no one expected. Forensics finally located Emma's remains outside the warehouse, but the cause of death was not what her family or investigators had prepared for.
There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, and no physical trauma consistent with an attack. Instead, toxicology reports revealed she ingested a lethal dose of a substance found in certain local herbal teas. The substance, rare but potent, was known to cause fatal reactions in people with specific allergies, and Emma's medical records confirmed she had a documented sensitivity. Detectives interviewed everyone she'd met on the trip, and the stubborn truth emerged. The tea had been given to her by a local guide she'd trusted earlier in her journey. It was offered casually after a long day of exploring, presented as a refreshing local specialty. What would you think if an innocent-seeming gesture turned out to be devastating? In the end, Egyptian authorities ruled Emma's death an accident, a tragic consequence of cultural misunderstanding and a lack of awareness about her medical vulnerability. Her family returned to New Hampshire, carrying grief as heavy as any physical weight, struggling to reconcile the vibrant woman they knew with the headlines her death inspired. Michael and Tom were cleared of wrongdoing, but the questions lingered in quiet moments. Could Emma have sensed danger earlier if someone had listened more closely? Could a simple decision to drink a cup of tea in a foreign land have been avoided? Her parents later established a foundation to educate travelers about medical disclosures and cultural differences, hoping others might be spared a similar fate. Emma's story reminds us that adventure carries risks unseen, and that paying attention to small details can sometimes mean the difference between life and death. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. We'll see you in the next one.